All right, I think we have a pretty good quorum here, so let's go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Courtney Scarborough. I'm Deputy Director here at NCEAS, and I thought I'd give you a little introduction to the rest of the Gulf Ecosystem Initiative team here with you today, and then we'll jump in. So, like I said, I'm Courtney Scarborough, Deputy Director at NCEAS, which stands for the National Center for Ecological Analysis and Synthesis. And from NCEAS, we also have Alex Phillips, who is our Communications and Policy Officer. And we have Heather Lahr, who is a Program Manager at NCEAS. And from the NOAA team, we have Hannah Brown, who also is a Communications Specialist with NOAA. And we have Caitlin Young and Miranda Madrid joining us from our NOAA team. So together, we form the Gulf Ecosystem Initiative, and we're really excited to share with you today and answer any questions you have. So let's just jump into it. We really hope that today we can answer any questions you have and also really focus on sort of the details. So we'll reserve a lot of time at the end here for questions. So today's presentation should really only take about 15 to 20 minutes because we really want to save time at the end for questions. So we'll start today with a little bit of background about the Gulf Ecosystem Initiative. We're also calling it Gulf Eco for short. And then we'll go through kind of the nuts and bolts of what working groups are and how these working groups will incorporate trainings into the process of the science that's going on here. And then we'll touch on the RFP process and the timeline for that. And then we'll give you some updates on how to stay updated and any questions you might have. So we're really looking forward to making those questions happen. So the Gulf Ecosystem Initiative is a $3.5 million partnership between NCEAS and the NOAA Restore Science Program. And we're looking to fund synthesis science and postdoctoral research over the next 5 years. So what we're really focusing on today is the working group call for proposals, and working groups of scientists and decision makers will collaborate to solve pressing questions across the Gulf of Mexico. So the fundamentals here of the program are, first, what's a working group? So working groups are a collaborative team of 12 to 16 people that span all different sectors. So across government, NGOs, tribal governments, academic institutions, private sector, and we really look for a diversity of people in each of these groups. Our working groups will gather for 2 to 4 collaborative sessions in person here at NCEAS in Santa Barbara, California, over the next 2 years. So if your working group is funded, you work with NCEAS to schedule 2 to 4 meetings over the next 2 years, and we host you here in Santa Barbara. So we also, for these working groups, will be incorporating trainings. And so teams can participate in collaborative data science trainings, communications trainings, facilitation trainings, and they're all tailored to the needs of the project. So we'll time those trainings to when your group is most ready for them, and we'll also tailor what the lessons are so that you get the most out of these trainings. And NCEAS has sort of a long catalog of especially collaborative data science training and communications trainings. And then we also have specialists in facilitation. So we hope to be able to kind of give people new collaborative science skills as they're working on their science together. We will be funding each year, we'll be funding 2 to 3 working groups at $75,000 to $125,000 for those working groups across 2 years. So that's $75,000 to $125,000 per working group. And that is mostly to cover travel and expenses while you're meeting in person. So we do not cover salaries or anything in the salary range, but we will cover project-related expenses. And all of that information you can also find in the budget template, which is part of the proposal RFP that you have to put together. This is going to be an annual call for proposals. So this is a 5-year initiative. So we expect 4 to 5 calls. And the products that we expect to come out of these working groups can be anything from, scientific models, databases, briefs, publications, and policy recommendations that are really applied in the Gulf and can be useful for natural resource management. So in terms of areas of interest for these proposals, there are 3 areas of focus that we are looking to for these proposals to really address. So the first is fisheries, and we hope that people will take advantage of the long-term fisheries and environmental data sets that are available in the Gulf, because there is such a wealth of data available. So that's one unique thing about synthesis science, is we aren't looking for new data collection efforts. We want people to take existing data and really use it in new and innovative ways, put it together with other information to be able to say something useful to the region. So we also focus on, we want projects that focus on climate change. So these should dive deeply into climate feedback loops or exploring the intersection of human action and environmental responses to inform decision-making. And then the third area of interest for these proposals is ecological impact of management. So we want this to address Gulf management decisions at any scale and generate new understanding for current and future action. So all proposals should fall into these categories. It doesn't have to be one, it could be all, but they should really focus on these areas of interest. And we are defining the Gulf as the NOAA Restore program defines the Gulf. So it's a little bit broader than just the marine region. It's both estuary and marine, continental shelf and deep water environments. It can be international, federal, and state waters. And we really want focus on the processes that influence the Gulf, so that can go up into the watersheds and into the coastal terrestrial areas that provide habitat for wildlife in the Gulf. So it's a little bit broader than just the Gulf marine areas. At this point, I just want to take a second to say, if you have any questions as I go through this, please do pop them into the Q&A. At the end of this webinar, we will do a moderated Q&A and we'll go through all the questions. So as they occur to you, please put them into the Q&A, and then we'll also have an opportunity at the end. So as I mentioned earlier, our working group model really brings together usually 12 to 16 researchers and management practitioners here in Santa Barbara at our research center. And each meeting usually is 4 to 5 days of time. And it's really a focused, intensive working session. And these occur multiple times over 2 years. And we really think this time together allows people to, find the moments of inspiration, find the moments of really focused time to solve big environmental questions through synthesis science. So this working group model really enables trust, commitment, and creativity through this extended collaboration. So with diverse data, diverse people, and diverse ideas, working groups can really connect otherwise disparate dots and discover key gaps in knowledge. And we hope, it can accelerate the generation of ideas and management solutions. So it also enables peer review on the fly. So it facilitates sort of serendipitous breakthroughs by bringing diverse people together to iterate on these ideas and kind of further the ideas over a really concentrated amount of time. And then in between these in-person meetings, we help facilitate virtual collaboration, and everyone can go home and sort of work on these ideas, iterate, and then come back again in 4 to 6 months and really update everyone on where their thinking has gone and dive back into the times together. And like I mentioned, these groups don't collect new data. They meet at NCEAS to synthesize existing data sets and make novel discoveries that couldn't come from a single lab or a single organization. It just really is the collective coming together that makes the solutions happen. So NCEAS, which is the National Center for Ecological Analysis and Synthesis, was the first synthesis center funded by NSF back in 1995. And it really created this cultural shift in the ecological community towards promoting open synthesis science and convening working groups and trainings to help the next generation of science really blossom. So over the last 27 years, sociologists have spent a lot of time at NCEAS studying the scientists themselves to determine kind of what the secret sauce is that makes the working group model so uniquely productive. And what we've found, and what the science has found, is that compared to independent scientists or remote research collaborations, diverse teams that come together in neutral spaces like NCEAS, away from their home institution, away from a host institution that may be involved in the research, it gets them away from the day-to-day demands of their work and their home life, and they're able to dive more deeply and creatively into what the science questions are at hand. And the resident support here at NCEAS really lowers that activation energy for doing science. So we provide logistical support, computing capability, complex data management support, informatics expertise, and we advise and facilitate on the leadership of synthesis teams. And then, as I mentioned, we also provide trainings for your team to kind of gain more skills as the science goes on. So the real key element for these meetings in person is that it really leads to higher levels of trust and faster generation of ideas, which then we've seen in the numbers actually generates higher publication productivity and also application of these ideas to management. So these trainings that we offer are really aimed at supporting these groups at every step of the way through the collaborative synthesis science process. So from the fundamentals of team science, GitHub, reproducible workflows, data management and storage, data visualization, science communication, and facilitation, we really have developed modules and longer trainings to be able to support teams where they are and accelerate their science. So these trainings will provide throughout the course of the 2-year working groups. And some of the modules can consist of anything from a few hours, a lunchtime session, to a full day, depending on the needs and interests of the group. And this is something NCEAS has always been really involved in trainings, but in terms of working groups, we've really been increasing the amount of training that we offer to working groups as data science and communication expands and really accelerates. We want to keep the community up to date and kind of on the cutting edge of things. So we offer a lot of trainings here in collaboration with working groups and also on the side, so outside of working groups. So if any of you are familiar with NCEAS recently, after 25 years in the same building, moved to a new facility just a few blocks away. So this is our new facility. We have a really nice outdoor large terrace for outdoor meetings and happy hours. We have a large classroom that can fit up to 90 people. And we have this conference room and a smaller conference room. So it's a really nice facility. And NCEAS can offer you the space to be able to meet. And we designed the space to be as open to collaborative and science as possible. So we really took those 25 years that we had at our old building, and we're able to design this new space to best suit collaborative working groups. And we also provide logistical support, lunches, hotels, travel, and like I mentioned, facilitation and training. Get back in there. So just to kind of give you a bit more of a background on where NCEAS comes from, NCEAS has been a leader in synthesis science since NSF started deciding that synthesis science was important. So it's been a real incubator of creativity and a place where ideas are born and tested, nourished, transformed, and shared, from NC's friend Jane Luchenko. And synthesis science working groups really do accelerate synthesis science progress. So our former postdoc, Skylar Hopkins, who's now at NC State, said, you know, the NC's working group model really does accelerate scientific progress, and integrating postdocs into these working groups really boosts both their careers and the science that's getting done in the working group, as they have sort of a dedicated person that's really focused on furthering the science. So some important dates for the RFP process is today is our informational webinar. Proposals are due January 31st, 2023 at 5 p.m. And all of the information about sending in the proposals can be found on our website. Postdocs, we are going to be hiring 2 postdocs, and those postdoc applications are also due January 31st at 5 p.m. And that is, you will be an employee of UCSB, so you will go through the UCSB process to apply for that postdoc. And proposals will be awarded in spring of 2023, and we expect first working group meetings to happen in the fall. So we will, the way we choose proposals that are successfully funded is through a scientific advisory council. And this year we expect 10 people to be serving on the scientific advisory council, and we have a list of criteria that each scientific advisory council member reviews these proposals according to, and they should be meeting in the early spring to review all the proposals so that we can award proposals by May of 2023. So I would like to hop into questions, as I think that's really the main focus of today. But before we do, I just want to give you some background info. So to continue this conversation, if you have questions outside of the webinar that you really want to focus on, please email us, or we also have one-on-one office hours. So our one-on-one office hours are every Wednesday and Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. And you can sign up for those, and it will put it on our calendars, and we can meet one-on-one to answer any specific questions you have. We're also here to support you. So if you've written a working group proposal before and want to check back in on the process, we're open for that, and we'd love to meet with you. And if you never have, we really want people who have, you know, never really been involved in this process to put in proposals. So come talk to us. We can really support you and help you through the process and help you with your ideas. So those office hours are helpful. We also have Twitter, our website, and please feel free to email us too. So with that, let's jump into questions. And Heather's gonna be moderating for us today.
Great, thanks, Courtney. Let's start with kind of some nuts and bolts questions with what level of meetings between the in-person meetings does NCEAS look for? Like monthly, or what's the cadence look like?
You know, that's really up to the group. I think it depends on how much collaboration is you know, going on between meetings. Often there will be subgroups that meet. So there will be a group that's really focused on one analysis, and they will meet, I would say, yeah, monthly. And so people will go home, be working on their individual tasks, but then you'll also want to stay connected. So I would say monthly meetings of either subgroups or the full group are really nice. And you also want to keep, you know, email contact. And on the analysis side, you know, keep the GitHub conversations going, keep the issues going. So I would say monthly is kind of a nice cadence, but it really depends on the group and how they like to communicate.
Great, thanks. And in terms of the types of synthesis, will qualitative or mixed method synthesis be considered?
Both, but all types. I think the more you can show that you have thought through the methods you're going to be using and the data you're going to be using for this process, the better. So one of the evaluation criteria is sort of, are the data that they want to use available? Are your data available? Are they openly available? And have you really thought through the methodology you're going to be using to get to the results you're looking for?
All right, thank you. So there's a couple of questions coming up around the postdocs and how they will work. So I'm going to sort of combine these questions.
Great.
But basically, like, are the postdocs linked to a specific proposal rather than working with just 2 of the 3 proposals funded? And there's kind of another question around, like, will we be playing matchmaker between working group project ideas and postdocs who can perform the specific analysis needed? Can working groups recommend specific postdocs to help?
So postdocs, the postdoc process is going to be separate from the working group selection process. The postdoc process will be, we ask postdocs to propose an independent project that they would like to work on over their 2-year postdoc. And that should be something, you know, within the realm of the themes that we have mentioned for the RFPs. And then once the postdocs are on board and the working groups have been selected, then we will play a matchmaking role and offer, you know, start working with the postdocs to see which of the working groups they best integrate with. And that may be 1 working group, and that may be all 3 working groups. So this postdoc is sort of 50% independent research on a related topic, hopefully very related topic, and 50% working with 1 or more working groups to support that science. And we think it's a nice balance to be able to offer networking opportunities, career development opportunities with a collaborative team, while also pursuing your own research. And a lot of times those will start to meld, which is great. But we also want to offer people, you know, an opportunity to go their own direction as well, and not only be in support of a working group.
Great. Moving on to kind of questions around how the funding works. And first, so are the proposals submitted through research.gov? And can these funds be used to fund students' stipend tuition?
These proposals are not submitted through research.gov. They are submitted directly to NCEAS. So on the submission side and the funding side, that is just on NCEAS. So that is not on the NOAA side at all. And so you will just be emailing your proposal materials to our Gulf Eco email address. And we will do the review process here at NCEAS. So it is not a formal upload process. And then in terms of supporting students, we do not do stipends. We may be able to fund some student support, but we do not do stipends. So we would have to work on working on what that student would be doing for the project and really laying that out in a support role, and it would have to fit within the budget.
Great. And in terms of how the money is distributed, we have a question around, are there typical expectations or aspirations for multiple co-PIs, as in, what is the most common PI arrangement? And if there's multiple, is the money usually housed at a single institution, or is the money dispersed from NCEAS accounting?
Right. So money will never be housed at another institution. The money always stays with NCEAS, and it will be allocated as needed for the specific needs. So most of this funding goes to the actual meetings. So travel, lodging, meeting space, all of that. It can also go towards things like publication fees and facilitation costs. But all of that stays with NCEAS, and NCEAS pays directly for those pieces, or people will be reimbursed for travel costs if need be.
And in terms of like how many PIs?
Yeah, you know, that's really open to the group. With our latest round of working groups for another program we run called Morpho, we have we've selected 2 groups, and those groups each have multiple PIs. In one case, we have a more advanced career scientist and an early career scientist sharing the PI responsibilities, which I think is a really nice model. And then in the other group, we have kind of a lead PI, but also 3 to 4 supporting PIs that are kind of leading the group. And I would say having multiple leaders for a working group is a nice model. It allows for kind of that co-generation of ideas. And it also allows for kind of multiple perspectives in terms of the management of a working group. The one thing that I think everyone in a working group needs to keep an eye on is having early career researchers really be doing the bulk of the work and PIs doing less work. That's kind of a classic trap of some working groups. And I think the more you can have multiple leaders in a PI position, making sure that everybody's sort of equally involved in the process, and making sure that not only a handful of people are really doing the work is important.
Great. And let's kind of switch gears to international participation, both from postdocs. Are we accepting international postdoc applications? And then also just as participants in working groups, are they allowed or encouraged? And would that travel be covered if you're international?
Yes, international travel is covered. International participation is covered. It just all has to fit into the budget. So you have to kind of budget accordingly for that. If it's going to be a bit more to bring people from international, you may want to cut down on the number of people you're bringing. Instead of bringing 16, you bring 13. Or you may be able to put it all within the budget. So it's just sort of more of a cost hindrance than it is bringing people into NCEAS. And then on the postdoc side, we are able to take international postdocs. We just have to make sure visa issues are settled. But international postdoc applications are welcome.
Okay, so you do not have to be a US citizen in order for a postdoc. Great, okay. Going back to kind of the structure of these and how these are run, we have a question that says, I'll just read it. I'm curious whether you prefer if members of the working group need to attend all of the meetings. For example, I could envision forming 2 subgroups for what we're working on, one composed of managers, decision makers, and one composed of researchers and modelers. Could we propose, for example, 1 meeting with all members, then 1 to 2 meetings of the modular subgroup, and a final meeting with all members? Or would you prefer to include all members in all the meetings and working stages?
I think that's a great model. We have had that model used here before. I think it's, if you're going to have subgroups meeting, that is fine, but I think it's nice to also bring everyone together, or bring at least cross-disciplinary, cross-focus groups together for at least 1 meeting. But I think that model of full meetings on either end with subgroups in the middle is something that's nice and can allow for a bit more focused perspectives. And that is definitely something we would encourage if it fits the model, and if it really would, if you can kind of express how that would help your team do the science that's needed.
Can you describe the difference between the postdoc's Gulf-based mentor and the working group, and can they be the same person?
They can. The Gulf-based mentor could be a part of the working group. They should also be able to support the independent research of the postdoc. So, just make sure that the mentorship doesn't only focus on the working group questions at hand. But I think it could be a nice complement to have the mentor also be involved in the working group, so they can kind of help on both sides. And we do have mentorship also here at NCEAS from the synthesis science and data science side.
Great. In terms of, we mentioned that the Scientific Advisory Committee will have some grading criteria to evaluate. Is this going to be shared with potential applicants, what the grading criteria is, and where would they be able to find that?
Yes, it is in the RFP announcement materials in the FAQ. I think at the end it is in that Word document that is posted on the website. I have also, I thought this might come up as a question, so I did put together, just so you could see, we have 10 evaluation criteria that just sort of high level that we include. So the first 4 are applied research, urgency, science in the service of solutions, and outcomes and results. And then the last 6 are inclusion, diversity, efficiency, data availability, applicability, and unique contribution. So these are all, I just wanted to kind of like highlight the broad scope of criteria that we are looking at, but these are also included in the proposal materials.
Awesome, thanks. And I think maybe one of the last questions, or in terms of, I'm not quite sure how to phrase this, but if people are looking sort of to be matched up in a way, like if they are one entity, but they're really looking for scientists to help them with a question that they have. So how is there anything we can do to support that matchmaking, or how would we suggest people potentially trying to find science to kind of help them with their research, help them with their industry?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a really great opportunity for NCEAS to play a matchmaker role. I think first step would be just to sign up for one of those one-on-one office hours, or email us directly, and we can set up a time to chat about what the needs are and how NCEAS may be able to play a role in that. And we can talk about this specific opportunity and also other creative ways to think about matchmaking. But I think the first step would be to kind of like dig into the details. So either set up a one-on-one office hours or email us.
Great. And does the working group need to include someone with facilitation experience, or is that the support that NCEAS can provide?
You do not need to have a facilitator in mind. If you have a facilitator in mind, you can include them. But we have a professional facilitator here at NCEAS that can help with working groups. And we also can do some trainings for your working group if that's something that you're interested in, to help you kind of develop your own facilitation expertise. So we have that in-house.
Great. And going back to the postdocs, can the postdocs' independent research be related to the working group idea, or is it intended to be truly independent?
It can definitely be related to the working group. I hope that it's related to working groups. I hope that there's a nice connection there. How tight that connection is really up to the postdoc and the working group itself. But you hope there are some connections.
Great. And given this is a brand new call, we still haven't asked for how many proposals do we anticipate receiving?
It is a brand new call, so we're not exactly sure. The last RFP that we put out about 6 months ago for a broader but somewhat similar program, we got about between 30 and 40 proposals. For our previous partnership, the Science for Nature and People partnership, we would often get 50 to 60. So I would say, I would anticipate probably more on the 50 to 60 range, but we're just gonna have to see where the interest is. And I will say one nice thing about having an annual call for proposals is, I think if you put in a proposal the first year and it isn't accepted, we do offer you feedback on how to improve that proposal. So you can apply the following year. And so it's a nice opportunity. It's not sort of a one-off, one and done. You can hone your proposals as the years go on too. So I think that's kind of a nice opportunity for annual proposals.
Can you talk a little bit more about the roles of the technical liaison and the communications liaison that NCEAS has to support the working groups?
Yes, so we do ask that each working group have a technical liaison and a communications liaison. And those people are really function as a point person for our team to be able to connect with the working group more regularly and also offer resources. So for the technical liaison, we have a group of trainers here at NCEAS that really focus on collaborative data science and data management. And so we expect that technical liaison to really connect with our data science trainers here at NCEAS on a regular basis and have a dialogue about, what are the needs of the group? How can NCEAS best help support those needs? What trainings can we offer that could help, the group forward their data science? And then on the communication side, it's a similar model. We have Alex, our communications and policy officer, and she will connect with the communications liaison of the working group and really work with them to try and identify what the communication needs are for the working group, how NCEAS can best support them in communications related trainings. We also have a partnership with Compass, which is a communications oriented group. And Alex has her finger sort of on the pulse of where can Compass come in and help working groups. Where can Compass offer their expertise? So the liaisons are the point person for those types of conversations and those types of needs with NCEAS. So we just expect a bit more communications between those people and NCEAS in addition to the PIs.
Great, and I would just like to mention on the topic of postdocs make great working group members. So we will have postdocs that will be part of this group that will be working from NCEAS. But if you are forming a working group, you can also just include a postdoc that's already working on something as part of that working group. So just wanted to kind of make that distinction as well. So I think we've answered most of the questions. I'll just pause and say that in case anyone has any last burning questions. And maybe while people are thinking about those things, Courtney, can you just remind people how to find the working group, how to find the office hours and how they can sign up for that if they have specific questions?
Yes, so if you go to our website, nceas.ucsb.edu/GulfEco. All of that information is in some pull down menus at the bottom. So you can get information. You can look at all the RFP information. There is templates for the proposals, both a budget template, a data template, and then also the requirements for the actual proposal. You can find the link for signing up for the one-on-one office hours there. You can find the timeline for everything that's going to be going on. And you can also find information about the postdoc proposals there. So all of it should be on our website. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to email us.
Perfect. Well, no more questions really came across. So thank you so much, Courtney, for answering all of those. It's great.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, everybody, for joining. This is fun. I hope we get a lot of proposals, and do feel free to reach out to us and start a conversation before the due date. So thanks so much and have a great week.